Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Sirhan on X. Excuse me, live from Cincinnati, Ohio, here in the United States. Hope everyone had themselves a good first real full day of the 2025 calendar year. Uh, some of us, yours truly being one of them, went back to work today, but New Year's Day is over. Now it's just back to business for a lot of people. Yours truly being one of them. Uh, Hope everyone had themselves a wonderful day. Excuse me about this. Uh, Little chilly out here in Cincinnati. For those watching in my the local part of town, I think everybody knows the situation in hand. That in the next couple of days, they're calling for cold and icy weather with a rumored snowstorm to be hitting the area, perhaps throughout the weekend. Just want to wish everyone a safe time and everybody just stay safe during these colder weather conditions that's supposed to come in here. So let's get that part out of the way. Uh, uh, Stuff to touch on today. Uh, going to talk about, of course, the playoff situation. Uh, the Jets trying to do something credible. Uh, of course, a standout in the college football weekend, and remembering two of the premier pound for pound all time greats on this particular day. So I'm going to get right down to it. Of course, it's week 18 of the NFL season, the final weekend. Still lots to determine in terms of playoff positioning. Still one playoff spot need to be clinched. Uh, of course, the big one Saturday is Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has had Cincinnati's number, winning three straight and four of the last five. I'm going to make it four straight and five of the last six because I think Pittsburgh knows they can't find themselves in that sixth seed, having likely to travel to Baltimore uh, for the playoff game. I think they take care of business at home. Cincinnati, uh, again, their luck out last week was they played a Bo Nix, who basically showed why he's still a rookie when he made that intentional interception to Jermaine Pratt. And that was basically it. I'm not expecting Russell Wilson to make those errors. I think Pittsburgh is going to, especially Mike Tomlin, would like to put the fork in the season of their division rival. And I expect him to do it Saturday night. So give me Pittsburgh at home. Of course, the other game Saturday is Baltimore Cleveland. Everybody knows what happened the last time. Jameis Winston just threw the ball all over the place on Baltimore, but of course, Jameis Winston's not playing this week. It's Bailey Zapp, the one-time Patriot, but I don't think that's going to matter. I think Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are more equipped, and they're going to run wild this time, get their payback, and clinch the AFC North for the second straight year. So for this one, give me the Baltimore Ravens. I think it'll be a better game than people think because Cleveland obviously has nothing to play for, but in that sense, but still give me Baltimore at home. So I expect Baltimore to clinch the three seed. I expect Pittsburgh, after they beat Cincinnati, to clinch the five seed and having to go to Houston, where it leaves Baltimore against the Chargers in the AFC. Of course, that'll come once the playoff positions are set. Of course, some other games on over the week. On Sunday, it's Tampa Bay and New Orleans, where I expect Tampa to basically clinch the NFC South. I think they're going to demolish the Saints. Baker Mayfield is playing at a very, very high level right now. Snubbed of the Pro Bowl. I think he's going to use it as a way to make a statement, and I think he makes a big one. I expect Tampa Bay to clinch the NFC South this weekend. Um, Green Bay goes to Chicago. I expect Green Bay to clinch that and hold on to their seed. Washington travels to Dallas. I expect Washington to handle business there, and those seeds are going to more likely be clinched. Of course, the last playoff spot in the AFC is more likely going to be between Miami and Denver. Miami is going to be playing the Jets, and the Broncos are going to be playing what's left of the Chiefs because you know the story there. No Patrick Mahomes, no Travis Kelce, no Isaiah Pacheco, no Trent McDuffie, on and on and on. And I expect Denver this time to just handle business on their home field, and I expect them to clinch that seventh and final seed in the AFC, and they're going to likely have to go to Buffalo. I expect that to happen. Of course, everyone is in an outrage that Kansas is benching their starters. Let me remind you, when you have a 15-1 record and the number one seed in the AFC, and you've won three of the last five Super Bowls, and you have the premier head coach and the premier quarterback in the NFL, you can do whatever you want. If you don't like it, too bad. Take it or get out. That's what I have to say. Because They reserve the right to do anything and anything they want. There's a reason why they're up there and everybody is down there. It's basically Kansas in the field right now, and at least the AFC. You know, of course, the matchups will be probably further discussed when the time comes. But Kansas can do anything and everything they want to because they've earned that right. When you finish with a 1 seed, a 15-1 record, you deserve to do anything you want. Teams had their chances to do something about it. They couldn't. Baltimore, Cincinnati, just to name a few of them. Of course, Buffalo got the win week 12, but it's an irrelevant win because it's a regular season game. So, so Kansas can do whatever they want for that 18th, for that last spot. And I expect Denver to capitalize on Kansas sitting their guys and getting that final spot and basically going to the playoffs. Miami's going to have the Jets. I expect Miami to take care of business, sending that coward known as Aaron Rodgers out for the last time for good. Hopefully, we never get to see or hear out of his coward self ever again for many, many reasons. But I'll divulge into him when he's officially done. And of course, the blazing game, the one that really matters the most, is the number one for the number 1 seed in the NFC. It's Minnesota versus Detroit. Couldn't there have been a better way to end the season than this? I mean, 14-2 versus 14-2. Arguably the two candidates for Coach of the Year, Kevin O'Connell of Minnesota, Dan Campbell of Detroit. Detroit already beat them once on Minnesota's turf, as we know. And I think Minnesota, I think, is going to come with the guns blazing, knowing they have a chance to get the 1 seed. But I think Detroit's going to hold serve at home. I think they worked hard for this moment, and I think they capitalize on it. I expect them to get the win on their home field to complete the sweep and clinch the number 1 seed in the NFC, which leaves a wild, wild situation in the NFC because now you're looking at Green Bay, Washington, and Minnesota, all with going to finish with at least 12 wins, having to play playoff games on the road in the NFC. Think about that. You're going to have Green Bay with 12 wins, Washington with 12 wins if they take care of business, which I think they will, and Minnesota with 14 wins. Or even if Detroit somehow loses to Minnesota, they'll have 14 wins. 3 of those teams in the NFC are going to have to travel on the road in the playoffs with 12 wins. Think about that. That's one of the craziest things I'm ever going to see. At least anyone's ever going to see, simply because nobody could forecast anything remotely close to this. But that's what we're headed for in the NFC playoffs. I mean, it's just nasty work having a 14-win team, Minnesota, going to travel to a 10-win team, which is probably going to be either LA or Tampa. A 12-win team, which is either Washington or Green Bay, having to travel to a 10-win team, again, LA or Tampa, based on seeding. And a 12-win team in Green Bay or Washington, whoever's left, having to travel to Philly, who I think has 12 wins and is going to sit all their guys. Which brings me another subject that has people all riled up. That is the decision to rest Saquon Barkley after he got 2,000 yards. You win the NFC East, you win your division, you get to 12 to 13 wins, clinch the spot, clinch the 2 seed. You can do whatever you want. That's what Nick Sirianni is doing with Saquon Barkley. And basically, when you talk about the mileage of a running back in today's NFL, and when you think about how Saquon Barkley did most of the heavy lifting for Philly in that offense, more likely going to win the Offensive Player of the Year. Again, they have the right to do whatever they want. If you have a problem with that, too bad. Learn how to accept it, because Nick Sirianni and Saquon Barkley have bigger fish to fry than worrying about you guys seeing records broken because you guys have a problem with Eric Dickerson. That's what it is. You're not fooling me. So, again, they can do whatever they want because they've earned the right to do whatever they want. They have bigger fish to fry than breaking records. That's all it comes down to. So, that's going to be the weekend of the NFL games. Again, I'm touching on the ones with playoff implications. Of course, I'll divulge more into the playoffs once the seeding and everything is official, because it's still positioning to be determined, and it's still very messy, especially we consider double-digit win teams having to travel on the road the way a Green Bay, Washington and Minnesota or Detroit are going to have to in the NFC. Way Pittsburgh, the Chargers, and probably I would say the Broncos because they're going to have 10 wins, having to travel on the road in the AFC. Never thought I would live the day to see something like this. It's the teams are very much set. It's just a matter of positioning, which I think a lot of that's going to rectify itself after the weekend. Now to another news in the NFL. Respected ESPN analyst Louis Reddick got interviewed for the Jets position of the general manager. Someone needs to tell Louis Reddick he can do better than this because we know the Jets are a clown show led by Woody Johnson and a 40-year-old coward and narcissist at their quarterback. Louis Reddick may be one of the more brilliant minds if you watch ESPN, the way he analyzes the game, brings a very unique, almost a refreshing view to the game that basically nobody even talks about. And he's one of the few guys I will listen to on the four-letter network simply because there's no credibility there. Louis Reddick's probably the only one that brings it when it comes to credibility right now, especially when it comes to NFL and even college football, because he's analyzed a couple bowl games for college and he's done a magnificent job with it. I mean, I don't know how serious the Jets are with this because there's some crazy thing called the Rooney Rule. I'm not even going to divulge in it because of all sensitivity. But I think Louis Reddick deserves an opportunity to be a GM. I think he can do a better job than getting one with the New York Jets because the Jets have basically nothing to offer right now other than finishing third or fourth place in the AFC East behind Buffalo and Miami year in and year out because that's the Jets' ceiling right now. And of course, the Jets are a hot mess in other areas when we talk about the head coach, the 40-year-old narcissist coward as a quarterback. Of course, rumors came out that DJ Reed doesn't want to return there. They may trade Garrett Wilson. And of course, Sauce Gardner just threw the team under the bus, basically said guys basically quit on the season, which doesn't surprise me a bit. So someone needs to stop and tell Louis Reddick he can do a better job than what he has when it comes to this particular job with New York. Because you want to talk about clown shows? Maybe outside of the Cincinnati Bengals fans here, the New York Jets line of employment might be the real clown show in the entire NFL. That's all there is to it. Actually, I wouldn't mind seeing Louis Reddick stay as an analyst because he's just phenomenal at what he does. And I can't blame him for wanting to chasing for a job in the NFL. But if I'm Louis Reddick, there's better out there. You might just want to sit this one out and just wait for the real better opportunities to come because they're going to come. And everybody knows Louis Reddick does a phenomenal job behind the mic as an analyst. Everybody sees it, and he'll find a better opportunity than the clown show called the New York Jets. So there's segment one. That was the NFL. Now we're talking some, of course, the college football playoff. Basically, it's a joke. Every game, every team was a joke, period. The way fans on all teams carry themselves, the way players conducted themselves throughout the game, especially the winners when it comes to Texas and Ohio State, and the way now you guys are attacking Arizona State and Oregon fans. Basically, you have no leg to stand on because you've done nothing yet. But the real story of the college football weekend has to be none other than Arizona State running back Cam Skattebo. I mean, you want to talk about guys whose stock went up, who played the lights out and the covers off the football field. Cam Skattebo left it on the line and basically almost by himself carried Arizona State to the win over Texas yesterday in one of the better games you'll see. I mean, I got a chance to watch this guy down the stretch, and when he was on, he's on. His draft stock probably went up a couple rounds because he was projected to be a day 3 draft project. Probably still is going to be because the running back value in today's league is not what it was way back when, unless there was a Bijan Robinson out there, which nothing comes remotely close to a Bijan Robinson in this draft. I think Skattebo is a day 3 draft pick if he goes, which I expect him to. He could fit in any roster because we have a 2-headed monster at running back. He could be a 2-headed monster with any premier guy. Imagine him with someone like an Isaiah Pacheco of Kansas City, or maybe even a Chase Brown of Cincinnati. Maybe pair him with someone like backing up a Derrick Henry of Baltimore, or maybe put him in Buffalo with Josh Allen. I mean, I think this guy could have a very respectable career. because he lays it all on the line, and he was a tough cover. You can see there are times Texas couldn't even cover the guy. I mean, Cam Skattebo just took the Arizona State football team, basically carried on his back, and did everything in his power to nearly get the job done. I mean, the touchdown run he had in overtime to show just how tremendous he was. And of course, he basically had very little left in the tank after the game because he expended himself, but his stock rose and rose quite highly. Was going to probably be a day 3 draft pick anyway, probably in the fifth or sixth round because of the value of the running back. Wouldn't be surprised if someone takes him in the 4th round, but he'd be a nice fit in a lot of places, especially when you have a future running back. You can go a 1-2 running back punch, and there's a lot of teams that have that. And I think Cam Skattebo might be able to be one of those productive guys in the NFL if he's drafted. I expect it to be in day 3. So we'll see what happens on draft day. But I've been on the Cam Skattebo bandwagon basically all season long. I like what this guy brought to the table. He's a reason why Arizona State got in the position they're in, wound up, in the spot they're in, got one of those top 4 buys in the college football, well deserved. So no, you can't complain about Cam Skattebo. He basically injected life in the college playoff, which was basically dead all weekend long, simply because we had fans all over the place carrying themselves like a bunch of morons. We had players carrying themselves like a bunch of morons. Games were basically dull to watch. But Cam Skattebo brought excitement to the college football weekend, and he deserves nothing but props. So we'll see where he goes there in the next phase of his career. Of course, the entire college football has everyone yapping about the college football format. But here's the problem. Everybody here yaps about college playoff formats every year. And next year, you guys going to find something wrong with the college football playoff format again. Instead of complaining about the format, just appreciate what we have right now. I mean, the committee doesn't give a damn about what anybody says. You guys cry fix during every game. You guys cry fix when the announcements are made. I mean, this is what we have, and you got to deal with it. You don't like it? Too bad, because this is what it is. Apparently, it's supposed to be something different at 26, which I don't know what I'm going to talk about. What's going to happen, but this is what we have right now. So, I mean, every year, someone's going to find something wrong with it. Maybe just learn how to keep quiet and just roll with it, because the college football playoff format is not going to change for your benefit. We had the BCS, everybody found something wrong with it. We had the 14 playoffs, everybody found something wrong with it. They expanded to 12, everybody found something wrong with it. We'll see what happens at 26 when they change. What's going to happen? Everybody's going to find something wrong with it. So you guys are too much of the offended by everything type, especially in Columbus and Texas. So don't get me started on Texas after they carried themselves in that Georgia loss. So I'll just end my college football segment right there. Good wins for Texas, Ohio State. Notre Dame just beat Georgia. And Penn State, who I think made a statement when they basically just controlled Alshon Jeffrey all game long. That defense was a second to none in that game. So we'll probably go more into it. I don't even know who the matchups are yet, but I'll wait until the official dates and sites take place. Now to my favorite segment, and it's the historical aspect of boxing, because I have a bunch of boxing followers. Nothing new coming up. I'm aware that I guess Canelo Alvarez is going to fight somebody next. I guess they're now talking about William Skull. We have idiots who still want to see the Canelo Alvarez Terrence Crawford fight. Tomorrow, I will rip you guys to shreds the way I see fit in regards to that topic. I'm not going to use it for today because I have other engagements I have to pertain to after this. But we're going to look back on probably 2 of the premier pound for pound fighters of all time. The first one, of course, took place in 1957, which would be 67 years ago today. This is the third of the 4-fight series between Gene Fullmer and Sugar Ray Robinson. Sugar Ray Robinson was the undisputed middleweight champ. Again, let me remind you guys in the boxing community, because you guys still don't get it. One belt era, winner takes all. Not a fake championship Daniel Dubois has. The real championship for winner takes all. This is the third of a 4-fight series where Robinson won the previous 2. Basically, he was coming off a long layoff. He fought the always durable Gene Fullmer, solid resume throughout his career. And in this fight, Fullmer style just gave Robinson, who was basically on his downturn, all the fits in the world. And basically, he floored Robinson in the seventh, controlled the fight from then on, and won the unanimous decision in Madison Square Garden. Sort of an upset at that time because we know about the stature of the great Sugar Ray Robinson. This fight basically was on Robinson's downturn, but they would rematch 2 months later, and Robinson got what's called the left hook of perfection when he flattened Gene Fullmer in the fourth and final fight to regain the middleweight championship. And another case where, once again, Sugar Ray Robinson shows the whole world why he's the greatest pound for pound fighter of all time. Checks the boxes in every single category we talk about: his resume, his style, career wins, career knockouts, career accomplishments, records that are never going to be touched by anyone at any level ever again. Because this guy was do it all. Every time he got beat, he found a way to come back, and get his revenge. He did that after this to Gene Fullmer. But of course, it was this day where it's probably Fulmer's landmark, where he showed the world why he himself was an all-time great middleweight when he stunned Sugar Ray Robinson to a 15-round unanimous decision to become the world champ in the one belt era, where one belt winner takes all, the real belt, not a fake belt like Daniel Dubois has. So that's Sugar Ray Robinson, Gene Fullmer 3, third of a 4-fight series. Fullmer doesn't get talked about enough. We talked about some of the great middleweights at that time. Never knocked anyone, fought and beat basically everyone. Had a great fight with Carmen Basilio. He had 3 tough fights with Dick Tiger. Another all-time great himself, the great Gene Fullmer. And speaking of all-time greats, it was on this day it was the birth of the late Pernell Sweepy Whitaker. It was born January 2nd, 1964. He would have been 61 today. Of course, we know the tragic ending. But when we think of, the great Pernell Whitaker, one of the top 20 pound for pound fighters of all time, to me, and is not even close. The premier fighter from 1993 to 1997, when he held the distinction of the best fighter pound for pound, became the undisputed lightweight champ in the 3-belt era, when undisputed meant something. Pernell Whitaker did it. The master of his craft. We talk about ring generalship. Pernell Whitaker mastered it. The 4 elements of scoring we talk about: clean punching, effective aggressiveness, ring generalship, and defense. Whitaker mastered it for the better half of from 1984 to really 1999. I mean, when he was in the ring, you knew he was boss. Maybe the unique thing with him is he was probably best known for 3 fights where he was victimized by Don King and Bob Arum boxing. We talk about Jose Luis Ramirez, Julio Cesar Chavez, and Oscar De La Hoya. Even though he had 2 losses and 1 draw, the feeling is he really was undefeated during that stretch of his career. Pernell Whitaker, was not the kind of guy that cared about, fanfare or action. He just wanted to master his craft. Underrated power, because he had some highlight reel knockouts. When he knocked out Louis Lomeli on a title defense, when he knocked out Juan Rosario face first to become the undisputed lightweight champion in 1990, and of course when he came from behind and stopped Diobelis Hurtado in 97 to get the fight against Oscar De La Hoya. That left hand, when he wanted to, if he really wanted to, he could put it on your chin and put you out. There was this huge misconception and misperception when it comes to him that he didn't have the greatest power because he only had 17 career knockouts. But their guys, when they hit the deck in highlight reel style. Especially when we talk about the 1-2 out of the southpaw stance. That was Pernell Whitaker. We talk about some of the elite all-time great lightweights, my opinion, easily top 5. I mean, you went undisputed at a time when undisputed meant something. That was Pernell Whitaker. You can't deny his greatness. Basically, when he beat Juan Nazario to become undisputed, his era was basically sealed. Anything he did after that was gravy. went undisputed in that weight class, became a belt holder at 140, went to Madison Square Garden and beat a phenomenal fighter named James Buddy McGirt in 93 to win the welterweight title, which ascended him to the status of the best fighter pound for pound. Moved up to junior middleweight to win a belt against Julio Cesar Vasquez. 1989 Fighter of the Year by the Boxing Writers Association of America and Ring Magazine, because he just wiped out Greg Haugen, Louis Lomeli, and Jose Luis Ramirez in a revenge match. I mean, just wiped him out, basically shut him out. And of course, the left hand that flattened Lomeli in the third round, Lomeli never recovered and was never the same. So, and he, of course, made 9 successful defenses of a welterweight championship before the loss to De La Hoya in a fight that people thought Pernell Whitaker should have been given the decision. Those around him thought he was robbed worse against De La Hoya than he was against guys like Ramirez and Chavez. Although anyone that follows the shows, I called his first fight against Jose Luis Ramirez the worst in boxing history, because Jose Luis Ramirez did not win a single round. Because that's how bad that decision was. I mean, Pernell Whitaker basically gave him a boxing lesson, and because of Don King politics, we know Pernell Whitaker was robbed against Jose Luis Ramirez in Paris, France that date in 1988. And of course, when we talk about the great lightweights, you know, Whitaker's up there. You talk about, of course, Roberto Duran. Of course, Henry Armstrong, the only fighter to win world championships in 3 weight classes simultaneously. Tony Canzoneri, who doesn't get talked about enough, one of the first all-time great multi-division champs in the lighter weight classes. You had, of course, Benny Leonard, who might have a stronger case as Duran and Whitaker for the distinction of greatest lightweight ever. He doesn't get talked about enough. Joe Gans, Ike Williams. Ike Williams was a huge problem in his day. Pernell Whitaker is in that conversation, and he earned it. You can't say anything about him. I mean, there's some fighters today, people in the recency biased boxing community, who think fighters like Floyd Mayweather and Devin Haney and Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson are in the same category. Let me remind you, those 4 fighters collectively couldn't hold a candlelight to what Pernell Whitaker was. Because Pernell Whitaker, when he was in that ring, when Pernell Whitaker was in that ring, you knew who the master was, and he made dang sure of it. If he wanted to put a knockout on you, he could if he wanted to. If he wanted to give you a boxing lesson, he could do it. He was a perfect do-it-all fighter. Didn't win it, wasn't big in the boxing intelligentsia, because that was at a time when people were so spoiled by guys like Mike Tyson and his action. People today would have no idea or any kind of appreciation of just how great the great Pernell Whitaker was from 84 to 99, which basically he ruled the sport, especially the period from 93 to 97 when he was the best fighter in the world pound for pound. I mean, nothing more to say about that. So, of course, you know, after his career, you know, the substance abuse and a bunch of other things, the legal battles he had out of the ring. Of course, the tragedy took place in 2018 or 2019. Can't remember. But January 2nd, it was a day the world was introduced to the great Pernell Whitaker. The boxing world got a chance to see him win the gold medal in 1984 in Los Angeles, who basically put on a clinic in those Olympics. And from that point on, his place in boxing history, pretty much well chronicled, pretty much set in stone. Arguably the greatest defensive fighter ever, or definitely the greatest defensive fighter of his era. I mean, his ability, it wasn't the fact that he was using the ring or running like some of the other fighters do. It was a case of slip, stay in the pocket, right jab, straight left hand out of the southpaw stance, and you look silly. I mean, I still have the image of the punch where he made Jose Luis Ramirez miss and countered with a half hook of the southpaw stance with a left hand, and Ramirez's head turned sideways, and Ramirez just looked stupid. That's Pernell Whitaker in a nutshell. Boy, I wish we could understand or at least appreciate what this guy did during his time, because a lot of you newbies out here just don't get it when it comes to him. I mean, for his time, he was up there when it comes to style, and everybody else was down there. That's Pernell Whitaker. Oh, I mean, I wish I could find a way to get this guy back in his heyday and wish so we could watch him again. because, as I said, a lot of the guys we see today collectively can't hold a candlelight to this guy. I don't care what you all say. And I stand firm on it. And that will wrap up this night edition of Sirhan on X, the first edition of 2025. I will be back tomorrow as I will do some unloading on quite a few situations. I said I wasn't going to do it tonight. I was going to save it for tomorrow because I'm going to put that list together. Fasten your seatbelts. You haven't seen anything yet. Hope everyone has themselves a wonderful night on the 2nd of January 2025. Happy New Year again to everybody. 2025 is in full gear. Hope everybody has themselves a whole wonderful 2025 calendar year and to pick up where it left off in 2024 because yours truly has big goals to do with this microphone this year. Big goals. So until then, have yourselves a wonderful night. Take care of yourselves and God bless.